Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to another exciting conversation, Lighting a Candle, a World That Works. So why are we doing this? We're getting together and talking. My name is Bill Correll, and I have invited a few friends to come and chat a little bit about what would the world look like when it's working. And we're very interested in what you see, not necessarily that needs to be fixed or changed, but what needs to be introduced from scratch. We need new possibility. We need a whole new way of thinking. And with that in mind, let me just take a moment here and kind of explain to you, we are talking about everything but politics. We're talking about how people interact with each other. We're talking about what works in conversations, what works in business, what works in terms of all of the great people that you've either listened to or have spent time studying. And with that in mind, let me introduce you to our panel today. And to my immediate left, on my left, your right, that would be Eric Lopkin. Eric, would you introduce yourself, please?
Hi, I'm Eric Lopkin. I run the Modern Observer Group, which is a business coaching and consulting firm. We also produce a podcast network and radio shows.
Excellent. And then there's Ken.
Hi, I'm Ken Caputo, and I'll just introduce myself straight up. How's that sound? I have a 30-year background owning and operating martial arts school, education. Lose you, Bill?
Yeah, apparently I'm struggling with the internet gremlins.
Whoops.
Go ahead, Lisa.
I had that earlier. It's just double checking mine. I guess I'm Lisa Sheehan. I am corporate by day and entrepreneur by night, and soul seeker all the time. soul seeker improver.
Yes, you are. So, again, I'm Bill Correll, and we're going to have a lot of fun today. And not only have fun because that's what we're supposed to do on a podcast, but have fun so that your time here with us is something that you can take away and start it going out into your world. So I have a question for you all today. And the question that we were asking in the last podcast having to do with empowerment, what would you say are the 5 key elements to empowering other people? Let's see if we can invent 5 distinctions that give access to empowering other people. This can be anybody to go first.
I'd say the first element is mindset. It all starts with your own attitude. If you're a positive person, if you have a positive mindset, that's contagious. If you have a negative mindset, unfortunately, that's also contagious.
Okay.
Yeah, I think creating space, just recognizing that there can be space for something to come in. I mean, one of the first things you learn in martial arts is the expression empty your cup, which has to do with this tea master, someone telling about all the things they know, and he's filling a cup with tea and it spills over into the person's lap. And they're like, what are you doing? There's no room left in the cup. And he said, that's like your mind, it's full. So, so noticing your ability to create space for something that you don't currently know, new data sets to come in, that's the first step. Because empowerment isn't something someone does to you. It's something that happens within you. It's you direct it, so it doesn't matter what information comes in if there isn't space for it.
Interesting. So it sounds like empowerment is a conversation. Empowerment is an invitation to people to take a look and see, what's so for them right now. Lisa, any other distinctions that you can think of?
Okay, so a lot of the things I've been participating in lately are loaded with acronyms, and they seem to be similar. So like one of the key things I think is to listen too. So once you open your mind to the possibilities, that to be open to listening to the different ideas and listen with intent.
Yes, it's great. So one of the things that occurs to me, and anybody who has spent any time interviewing people knows that the best questions that you can ask are typically not asked by anybody in the regular media. What we typically listen to is a 15 to 40-second so-called question, which is an editorial comment that usually ends up with, wouldn't you say, or can you respond to that? And what we're really looking for here is not to engage other people in our way of thinking, but probably to find out more about what you all are thinking out there and what you need, for a next step for you. So in terms of the listening part that Lisa talked about, the mindset part, that Eric talked about, and then clearing a space that Ken talked about, in addition to that, has this kind of openness to it. The openness being even in the way that you ask your questions that begin with who, what, when, where, and how, and never why. Why presumes there's an answer, and believe it or not, human beings are going to answer a why question, and usually to their own detriment. A why question is attempt to I think I think, and I'm going to just put this out there, I think that it's an inauthentic way to act like you care about what the other person is going to say. But it's more about getting them to commit to one thing or another. And if you answer a why question, I remember a very brilliant man once telling me, answering a why question is a fool's errand. It produces nothing new in the world, and it actually creates a past that you now have to live down. So with that in mind, the four distinctions that we've got so far: mindset, clearing or making room, listening, and then questioning, open-ended questions that invite people to have a thought that they may not have expressed before. Those types of conversations I find it's a lot of where I come from in asking you all questions. So let's leave the fifth distinction unnamed for the moment. We can all handle that, right? And we'll do what the really great thinkers call dwelling in the question. Most people cannot have an unfinished, unanswered question going on in their life. So any answer that completes it for them so they can move on to the next thing. I don't know if you're listening and if this actually resonates with you. And what I want to find out now is, how do you engage someone into a conversation for empowerment? Eric, you should know we're not afraid of silences on the podcast.
Yes. That's a very interesting question. And you said you're not afraid of silence. No, silence is a great tool.
Yes.
I spent a lot of years as a reporter, and silence was how I got people to answer questions more than they would have otherwise, because people tend not to like silence, so they want to fill it with anything. I had one interview subject read the article after it came out and come up to me and goes, "I can't believe I told you that." So silence is a great tool. But in terms of getting back to your question and, how do you open up conversations about empowerment? I think first you have to figure out where you're starting from. And unfortunately, today, a lot of people seem to be starting from their differences. We really need to be starting from what we have in common. And realistically, we have so much more in common than we do, that separates us. If we focus on that, that puts us on the road to discovering empowerment.
I like it. Very good.
Yeah. I think attention is part of it. Like, for anyone out there, I'm sure at some point you've you've noticed someone who was, they were acting, or just really more importantly being a certain way that on some level you recognized as some form of empowerment, whatever that means to you. There's a smile in their eyes, or, you know, a certain demeanor. There's something that connects to you. And, you know, and that's really, it's that once that noticing occurs, now you can ask them the question, you know, how did you become like that? You know, what is that about? And, you know, so again, it always comes back to, we all notice beauty around us, you know, but how we interpret and see beauty is different for each of us. So, and the process is the noticing, you know, that's what matters. So, you know, I always liked this expression, pace, lead. You know, you don't try to get people to go somewhere. You go to where they are, and then you walk with them a little bit, you know, and then you can start to, you know, offer an invitation to guide them someplace new, you know, but don't jar them into it. Let them notice it, let them recognize it, whatever that means to them. And we've all had the experience with people, you know.
Yeah, I've heard that referred to as riding the horse the direction it's going. You don't turn on.
Yeah, actually, Dan Pink, you ever hear that book, Drive by Dan Pink? And he talks about motivation in it. And he refers to the human as, you've got an elephant and the rider. And the rider is our intellect, you know, our ability to think. And then the elephant is our nervous system, our emotional processing. He's like, you don't make an elephant do anything. You do the best you can to guide it and enjoy the ride. You know, so try to get. Yeah, really good book. You wrote it a few years ago, but it was a great, you know, kind of metaphor for thinking about, you know, you don't get any person to do anything. You're not going to convince them of something, you know, but you can offer some invitations and guide them, you know.
Awesome. Lisa, any thoughts?
I've been involved in, so it kind of connects everybody with Parker Palmer writes about circles of trust, where silence is actually a member of the group, and people do like to fill the space, so it does make people uncomfortable, but it does make people actually get deeper into themselves when it's a place where they feel comfortable speaking, or as he puts it, the shy soul gets to speak. So I think it's great to have places where people can go and feel comfortable and not be advised or fixed, or just know that, you know, these are comfortable spaces, and to present new ideas and, you know, just take it in. But the other thing, to go with hanging out with or being with like-minded people, and I was in a class where that's where we have to start with our communication with people that don't think like we do, because depolarizing within our groups is just as important as outside of our groups, because that's where the insidious kind of comments breed, and then, you know, it's us and them instead of we as a whole.
And what we know is,
totally agree.
Yeah, go ahead, Ken.
I just totally agree. It's actually years and years of working with teenagers, and one of the things we'd always tell them is, you know, the level of success you'll experience, like especially professionally, will be your ability to work effectively with people you neither like nor agree with, you know, and start to find that commonality instead of just, you know, putting yourself in that echo chamber that we see so much right now, especially on social media.
Social media, regular media too, and from what I hear, in a lot of classrooms. So I think the whole conversation about being trained to work, to find and create workability in every situation, that's a very powerful step forward. I think it resonates with most of those silent souls, you know, that Lyndon Johnson called them the silent majority. Richard Nixon also used that term. But the people who are not out protesting, who are not writing letters to the editor, who are not standing out with a megaphone telling people what their beliefs and views are, but are sitting home quietly waiting for their turn to go to the voting booth. There are so many people, you know, and the whole idea of an empowering conversation is to allow people to have the thoughts that they're having, and for them to not only be all right with it, but they actually enjoy, the kind of thinking that they have. So if you consider the risk that's involved with dealing with people who you neither like nor want to know, that's actually kind of great training for dealing with teenagers.
Mm-hmm. Well, and I bet you if every single person out there could probably think of someone who they initially disliked or didn't have a connection to, and then their mind changed. Like they found a way to respect them, or they ended up becoming friends. Every single one of us, I highly doubt there are many people that can't reflect back on their life and think of that experience. So we're all capable of it. It's happened to us. We know it's a real thing. It's just, is it intention, or is it, just kind of a happy accident?
Exactly. And the other thing that is, I think, very powerful in terms of engaging a conversation for possibility is to distinguish the two kinds of speaking that people typically do. And this is the one where the storytelling goes on, and the sharing of trauma, and what they like and they don't like, and what they hate, and all that other kind of stuff. That's a conversation talking about, okay? Where the kinds of things that come out once you have cleared and emptied the cup is what's possible, and that is a conversation for something. That's a conversation to actually invent or innovate, or collaborate in the exchange of words to something that takes us further than we've been before, either together or in some cases out on the skinny branches of what's new for the world. And I think that's one of the reasons, Ken, that you and I listen to so many many books. I mean, Audible is my new cassette player. So
yep.
I very much enjoy that, and I pay a lot more money than I'm supposed to, and I always have at least 5 or 6 selections that I can drop in at a moment's notice. So I'll talk to you afterwards about your recommendation of the next book. So we're getting, again, close to the 20-minute mark here, and I can see you, and I can't see the viewers of this podcast, but are y'all getting anything out of this conversation? Eric, are you glad you came today?
I am glad I came. In fact, I love that you keep using the word conversation, because so much of the communications that goes on today isn't conversation. It's people talking at people rather than with people. And I think, in terms of heading towards empowerment, if you don't accept that someone can have different opinions from you and still have a valued point of view, you're never going to get past that. You have to be open, as Ken said, creating that open space to take things in. Even if it's something that makes you uncomfortable at first, you need to be open to it. And that's what conversation is. And I love that that's what this is all about, because this is a conversation.
It actually is. And while you were speaking, I was thinking of a post that I put on Facebook earlier in the week when Ruth Bader Ginsburg passed. I actually went out and did a little bit of research. I went and Googled Ginsburg and Scalia, because I really was very interested in who those two human beings were for each other. And what I found was very amazing, in just a few minutes, was the high regard that they had for each other, how involved in each other's lives they were, and that their friendship had nothing to do with their political bent. And as I wrote in the post, they had a very different view of the future for our country, and they both honored each other as champions for their cause, that helped them grow their friendship and helped them become lifelong, table mates. If something good was going on in either one of their lives, the other was more than likely, in the first 5 people that they spoke to about it. So that's an iconic friendship that I would love to have my grandchildren know all about and put it out there as a challenge for them to emulate. You find some people that you can't get along with right now. Make a game out of becoming friends with them and finding out what their point of view is and why they are interested in the things they're interested in. So as I mentioned, we're getting to the top of the hour. So Ken, do you have any parting thoughts for our listeners?
Just the triggering off the conversation thing, because it's when we teach teachers, we refer to communication as conversational learning, and if there's this dynamic ability for each person to be thinking about what's new coming in that they're discovering and what they can share in return that has value, you get like this expansive thing instead of this kind of collapsing, tunnel-like experience. So feel free to take that term if it's helpful to you. It's been helpful to us.
Great. Very good. Lisa?
Yeah, when Eric talked about this being a conversation and how much more helpful that is, or useful, and instead of speaking at people, that resonated so well with me that I said that kind of hit it on the head for me, that's what we're doing. So I'm glad you brought that out into the open. And my other thing about conversation too is because my father and I have completely different political views, but I adore that man. So if I can find that little bit of adorableness in him, to seek that in other people, no matter what their outward appearances or political beliefs are, it's there.
Awesome. I guess by way of parting thoughts, I just want to, again, thank you all for your kind attention and for bringing your energy and your love and your past and all of your studies, to this get together. And it is a dialogue. It is a conversation. This is not something that's scripted, and none of us really knows what we're going to be talking about before the podcast. I hope and intend that will keep this fresh and fun for everybody, and we will have more guests as we go on over the next few weeks. So with that in mind, thank you all again for listening to Lighting the Candle. We are lighting the candle for a world that works. Bye for now, everybody.
You've been listening to Lighting the Candle, a world that works, part of the Exvadio Podcast Network. You can hear us at exvadio.com/podcasts, Apple Podcasts app, Google Play, Spotify, iHeartRadio, Stitcher, and wherever you find podcasts.